All right. What's up, everybody? We're going to get started a little ahead of 12:05 because there's like so much stuff going on. But I usually like to, and aside from just listening to the EDM music, which makes me happy, I always like to give, a nice 5 minute pause in between because people just continue to
Can
come
I
in
what?
well past the 12 p.m. So
I don't
appreciate
think so. Why?
everyone being here. Hold on. All right. That's probably Marku. Marku's talking to. You guys mute yourselves other than speakers. That's cool too, but no worries. But yeah, so we got people coming in. Welcome. Excited for our Q4 community Zoom. These are some of my favorite days of the year because I really enjoy talking to all the cool people doing stuff in our community. And it's just fun seeing faces. Always Mike Dolly, who now has a different background. It's freaking me out. He usually has birds aren't real behind him, and this is a different scene for him. So good to see you, Mike, and Crystal and all the squad, Paisley. Thank you guys for being here. People continuing to roll in. We've got a really fun agenda today, so we'll kind of get to it. As always, I have to give a huge shout out to the Software One crew who sponsors this fine community gathering. They've been a really cool part of our community. We're actually very excited. They are doing an international conference down in Florida in January, and the Alliance will be down there with them, putting on a gaming activation. So that'll be very exciting. Appreciate them continuing to just embrace gaming and what it can mean for their organization and their employees. So very exciting stuff going on there. Thank you, Software One. For those who may not have been to a call of ours before, or it's their first time, Milwaukee Esports Alliance, we're here to try to drive collaboration, increase access, and then just really continue to drive the state of Wisconsin's esports ecosystem forward. So calls like today are set to be able to achieve that, to bring people together, have conversation, meet one another, and continue to engage, which is a really exciting opportunity. I do always just kind of share some of the things that are going on in our ecosystem. And there was so much happening this month that I had to get away from the single bullet point list. And instead, I've included all these fine pictures for everyone. But yeah, it's been a very eventful, I would say, Q4. We launched registration for the upcoming Wisconsin Esports Summit, which we're very excited about. This will be the third year. And so we're hoping to continue to build upon the success of the past couple. And many of you here have been involved in that and been a part of it. So we're very excited to see that continue. That's going to be a really fun event. If you don't know, we partnered with an organization called the Wisconsin Collegiate Rocket League this past year. We kind of helped bring them under the Alliance umbrella. And so we actually had their fall championship LAN in the past couple of weeks at a Best Buy just outside of Milwaukee in Mayfair. That was an experience. Went very well. It's always fun to see the gameplay itself. You don't get that chance all the time. It would have been more exciting if Riot's servers wouldn't have gone down for 3 or 4 hours because they tried to launch a game and have an Eminem concert on Fortnite. And so that made it very exciting when 100 kids, all of a sudden, the game just stops. So when you hear people put on these LANs or you see that they're happening, just give them a high five or a pat on the back and say thank you, because it is not the easiest job in the world when things like that are at your side. Different than maybe basketball, where like the rim and the backboard don't just stop being there, so you can't keep playing. So that was educational as well as a lot of fun. As an organization, we celebrated our 3-year anniversary, which was very cool. It's been an evolution from the start, but it's very cool to have been at that point organizationally, and we're excited to keep going. Another partnership that we took on this year is with the Magic 4 gaming crew. And we actually just over the past month have launched a facility on the east side of Milwaukee above the Oriental Theater. And so we've been finding great success with our weeklies and our monthlies and some of the tournaments that are going on there. And just excited to continue to provide places for people to play and experiences in a unique venue. So very excited to continue that into the new year. And then on the far right there, one of the things that's been prevalent for our organization over time has just been a lot of universities continue to get involved, and up until this point we've been just a very we call it good connector to resources and to try to get them up to speed. But we actually have now brought on teammate Lewis Smith, who was the former director of esports at Concordia College, help us lead in sort of our collegiate consulting side of things. So if an organization says, hey, we'd like help in these areas, we now have a network of people to connect them to and try to actually provide a resource to them from a paid side. So it's been eventful, a lot of partnerships, a lot of growth, which is super exciting. So setting up well, I think, for 2024 and kind of beyond. So always an evolving world. But enough about us. I want to get to our first highlight today, a community success story, and just an all-around great guy, Henry Dabrowski. Welcome, my friend. You are our first speaker on the community success side. So stop sharing so we can see your beautiful face. And welcome, man. Great. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, guys. It's good to be here again. Yeah, I guess we can tear right into it. So,
Yeah.
about 5 years ago, I started a kind of a computer company. It's gaming and workstation focused. So we'll do a little bit of both. That's about 5 years ago now, and we've grown to not just be myself, but also have two other guys. So now there's three of us. We are building machines in the Milwaukee area. So our main office is we have two. My home office, of course, with the whole pandemic and everything a couple of years ago. But we have a main office on Water Street. And we do machines for people who are like engineers, accountants, of course, gaming, some esports work, research, kind of whatever you need. That's really what we do. We'll work with you, obviously, to figure out what kind of workflows you have, budgetary restraints, so on and so forth. But yeah, it's been a really wild ride, especially with the whole pandemic and everything. And now we've kind of things have returned to normalcy, and so has business. But one of the things that we've been really focusing on, from our entire lives now, going almost again on 5 years, is building in Milwaukee. Now, what does that mean? Obviously, there's some restraints with getting motherboards, these computer parts actually produced in the States. Very, very hard. If anyone's involved in engineering, they'll tell you getting these computer parts here is just very difficult. So a lot of times they're made overseas. But our cases, we actually manufacture these in Utah, so not Wisconsin, unfortunately. But we test everything, assemble everything here right in Milwaukee. And yeah, we love to work with our community as much as we can. One of the big things we've been going into now, the end of this year, and especially in 2024 now coming up, is we're building and designing our own custom mechanical keyboards. It's like a boutique project, I guess, if you will. And that's something that is both engineered in Milwaukee and manufactured in Milwaukee. And I believe, in Milwaukee's manufacturing history, our whole business does. We're used to be called the machine shop of the world, where we had this wonderful manufacturing base in Milwaukee. We were a high performer in a lot of different ways. And we're really trying to call upon that history in our business, and also try to hopefully be part of its future. There's still a lot of great manufacturing in Milwaukee. We are able to pull off a boutique custom keyboard because of that. And we really want to see that continue to grow. But yeah, it's going to be a great keyboard. I unfortunately can't talk too much about it yet, but early 2024, we should have some renders floating around. But yeah, it's been a really great ride, and being with the whole esports community here has been really helpful, meeting people and seeing, okay, what are people looking for in a gaming PC? What are they looking for in an esports PC? And that's actually really helped us to develop our workflow, our business, make sure our pricing makes sense for organizations, students, people who are just, gamers at home, right? And it's been a really great ride. So
Yeah,
it's
no,
really
that's
happy
cool.
to be here.
Well, and I think, so when we last spoke, obviously you guys have kind of been doing the custom PC building for a while, which is pretty cool, and super fun. And
Yes.
then this sort of pivot over into the custom keyboard space I found very interesting. And I know obviously you can't give all the details away, but maybe if you'd speak to, I know the way that you've been thinking about it from a customer base and whom usually has the highest proclivity to do a custom keyboard, maybe speak to like maybe what that community looks like, because I found that very insightful and I hadn't really heard of. Obviously, I think people are very specific about their peripherals and maybe what controllers they like to use when they game, but you've got kind of an interesting niche there. Could you maybe speak to just that community and what's maybe existed in the past?
Definitely. So that's you mentioned a really good point that people, so it's like any sport, people, especially one that has, a racket or a bat or something like that, when you're using your tool of your trade, people are very particular in what they use, right? If it comes to tennis, people get, special stringing done, grips, rackets, models, and so on. And the same thing comes down to esports and gaming, and even just, being into data analytics, so on, doing your actual work, on a keyboard. The engagement that you have, you might be working on or gaming on your machine for hours on end. You should have a really tight experience that fits your personal needs, and that's going to be different than what you can just go pick up at Best Buy. You'll learn over time as you get into these boutique keyboards, which again is its whole unique community. It's separate, I think, from the necessary. I mean, there's overlap, but it is a separate community from the esports, from the gaming, from the computer enthusiast world. It's its own kind of subcultures. If the good example is, there's many musicians, but not all of them are going to be into guitars, and that's kind of the way I like to think about it. But yeah,
Cool.
Wonderful,
think,
wonderful industry.
Yeah, I think it's been fun. One of the things that we get really excited about is when, a local provider or local pre-existing company says, hey, we're going to create a product here, and it's something that people can consume. And when it has adjacency either directly to esports or kind of in that gaming space is really exciting, because it's like, hey, this is the type of stuff that grows industry. So I've just been very appreciative of kind of the way that you guys are embracing that. And and is there any, like, from a product specs perspective, but I know like one of the unique parts of it is like the actual, like, my keyboard here is made of, I don't know, plastic or something wonderful, but you all are kind of thinking about that a little bit different, right? Like, you're kind of going into it with like, this thing is durable and has some special features. Maybe if you could, like, what's a special feature? What are some of just like small things people might not know about when you talk about like high end keyboard creation?
That's a great question. So, just kind of the whole idea of your tool of your trade should be custom to you. It should be something that if you're going to use it a lot, it should be a high quality item. So a lot of keyboards, no knocking, nice keyboards like this, something from Logitech. Our keyboard is quite literally made of steel from Milwaukee. It's a powder coated piece. It's got two pieces that connect together. But yeah, this is steel, and then the PCB has what's called a hot swap technology. So you're able to pick the individual switches and actually customize those to fit your needs. And there's different types of switches, and this is where you can get really crazy. You can get different, how tactile the switch is, the travel length, how loud it is. There's a whole world in switches in the keyboard land. And so we really work with our customers to pick out, okay, maybe you're more of a typist and do only maybe 30% of your gaming, and maybe those games are FPS games. That's going to be a one type of switch that they're really going to probably like. If they don't like that kind of switch we recommend, we have a bunch of other ones they can pick from. But that's really what I think sets us apart, is that not only is this going to be manufactured in the Milwaukee area, it's going to be made out of steel, and a lot of keyboards aren't made out of steel. They're made out of some plastic. They drop it, it cracks. This is a true unit that's going to last a long time. And if you get sick of one orientation of maybe you don't like the PCB style anymore, you don't like the keycaps or switches, you can replace those at your own time. That's a unique piece right there.
I mean, just the fact that we have a steel case keyboard manufacturer in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, I think is just the best. So that's really cool. And maybe if you want, drop your website or drop whatever in the chat.
Definitely.
I just wanted to give, Henry this chance to share, because that's pretty cool, and really appreciate the element that you're bringing to our esports community, not only through the custom PC builds. It's helpful to have subject matter experts. Of course, we are in a room of people who generally are pretty well educated on, how to do some of these things, but you guys really kind of take it to that next level, which is super exciting. So I appreciate you being willing to just kind of share with us what's going on. And, I know Henry will be at the summit upcoming at March, which will be another good chance to see some of their materials and up close and personal. So appreciate you being here, man. Thanks for sharing and kind of giving people the update on what's happening at Dark Fusion.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you all.
Cool. All right. So next up on the list, also very excited to talk to one of our leaders in the collegiate esports ecosystem, Paisley Bennett, who is the head coach at Madison Edgewood. What's up, Paisley? I always get my little share on here. You not too long ago just took on this head coaching role. So congratulations. Maybe if you wouldn't mind starting, just kind of give people some background about yourself, because you've been in our ecosystem for a little while, kind of in some different capacities, and maybe give them just a quick get to know you.
Yeah, so esports journey started back in 2020. I've been a lifelong gamer since I was little, so gaming was nothing new. But when I was back at Madison College, got a lovely email from Joe, which I believe he's here, wanting to start up an esports team there. And I said, sure, don't know what that means, but why not? I can play video games. So that kind of started there with Madden, and then we eventually got Call of Duty, and I took that on, and kind of grew there as a player. I didn't know what Discord or Twitch was, because back in the day of starting gaming, we just called people or they came over to play. So I learned, eventually started streaming. As my time grew there, I took over graphic design as I was getting my graphic design degree and kind of helped build that program, not only as a player, but with my talents in graphic design. And then I eventually came on as a volunteer coach and then an assistant coach to help build over there. And then I came over here, trying to think of what else. Oh, and in that little journey, I did work with the version 1 in Minnesota Rocker organization, doing graphic editing there, and worked 2 home series events, doing PC setup, and I helped with the players too a little bit. I did a little of everything there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what brought me here in a short scope. I could, like, if you guys want to talk more, I can. But it could be like a 2-hour long conversation because we can get into more detail. But yeah, so I landed the job at Edgewood here in August. Though it was sad to leave Madison College, we still have those connections. I still talk to Joe daily. But I've also done a few graphic things for the Milwaukee Alliance, so that was fun. I just like to help out in esports wherever I can. So whether that's doing freelance, coaching, whatever it may be, it's fun. I like it. I like being around video games and bringing that knowledge here to Edgewood, as we're in our 2nd year and growing. So
That's awesome.
It's been fun.
Yeah, I think one of the exciting parts of your story that's always been, I think, sort of a case for how well this can work, right? Is you start out volunteering, you start out just getting involved, and you're a homegrown product, and now you lead an esports program. And I think whether it's Mike's work in the high school realm or just all the way, many of us would say, wouldn't that be cool if someone could get their education, could get involved, and then could end up as a career individual in our ecosystem. So I look at you and say, hey, that's amazing. And I know you and I have chatted a little bit about, but I'd be curious if you'd share some of your perspective. I mean, it's a different animal being a head coach, if I'm not mistaken, sort of a program, versus, in many ways you've held adjacent roles or kind of contributory roles. Maybe speak to, kind of how that has felt to you, or maybe some things that you have experienced that might not have been expected, or maybe in a good or a negative way, but kind of share with folks what that's looked like, because very few sit in that chair, right, who are collegiate coaches of esports programs. I'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, so it is interesting because, well, when I was over at Madison College, we were kind of our own little ordeal. I mean, it's kind of still the same over there, so we pretty much did everything ourselves. And by that I mean I was doing all our headshots and graphics and stuff. So coming over from doing just that while being an assistant coach and not really doing everything myself, coming to Edgewood and taking it all on myself has been interesting. Like, it's funny because a lot of people don't know what esports is. So not only am I trying to build a program here, but I'm trying to educate not only all of athletics, but the administration as well, which I feel like Mike, I see him nodding and he's also in agreement with that. And that can be a whole nother stress. I'm trying to run 6 games and get competent coaches to help be successful. And athletics doesn't fully understand that me being the program director and head coach are essentially 2 separate ordeals, but they want to classify it as one. And while that is a task that needs to be separated, it's not going to happen in a day or overnight or a year. So I keep telling my kids and the other coaches that Rome wasn't built in a day, and to be patient and trust the process. And we are making moves. When I got here, we didn't have Medify approved for additional coaching or trying to get additional funds. Even traveling to WCRL was exciting, but they're like, we don't have the funds to travel. So we traveled for the first time ever, and we actually got interviewed. So athletics did a whole little piece on us going to WCRL, which is a step in the right direction, as A lot of schools I don't think get recognition for even small things. So that was exciting. We got Medify approved to get additional coaching for our Overwatch team. And so things that weren't happening last year, we're putting into perspective. And they have learned that I don't take no for an answer. If they tell me no one day, I'll come back again. I want to see success, and we're not going to get it if we don't have people who push in the right direction.
Yeah, very well said.
That also being said, we are hosting 2 camps this summer, which I'm getting pushback from IT, which is interesting. Just how things will get set up, and that's for LANs for the future. I know we've been asked to potentially host WCRL fall next year, which is huge for our new space. And IT was giving me pushback, and I said, if you don't want to do it, I'll do it myself. Again, another person who wants to tell me no, and I'll figure it out. Yeah, we're making moves. We'll see how many people like me after this year. But I think we just have to keep going forward, because if we don't, then why do we spend money for a new arena? Why are we putting the efforts into grinding out recruiting? I'm here to give my students and potential students the best experience they can get in college, because I know esports was a big play in my last 2 degrees at Madison. As being a traditional athlete, it just played a huge role in both high school and college. So I just want to bring that back to the kids who come here.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And you've been making great progress already, which is one of the reasons I thought it'd be fun to kind of have you share your story, which is cool. So if you had to wave a magic wand in a year, what would a year from today kind of look like, and what would be best case scenario for where you guys would be?
I mean, well, in a year they want me to have 40 kids, so that's going to be interesting. So that's like just doubling where we're at. By fall, I'm hoping to get to at least 30 kids and just having a vibrant atmosphere in our arena. So right now I have a good chunk of people hanging out in there, and that's what I just continue to do every day.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to bring, I don't know how we can make it work, but through fundraising stuff, I'm hoping to bring on more like consistent coaching, and trying to get more coaches in the building to be here with me. So I try, since the arena is across from my office, I go in there and I pop in when I see the lights on, just to cultivate that atmosphere and getting to know each player. Which with 26 already, it's really hard to get to know everybody individually. While I'm outgoing, it's still draining. Because I not only am I talking to 26 students regularly, I'm also talking to recruits and coaches. And yeah, it's exhausting at the end of the day, but if that's what the kids need, they always know that my door's open. So in a year, if I could have a magic wand, I'd have a full coaching staff for each game, and I can just focus on recruiting and my graphic design and streaming. That would be great, but unfortunately we're not there yet.
Hey, if there's anything I've learned about you, that you will give it as good of a shot as possible to getting into that reality. So it's always fun to sort of put that vision out there, right, as to what we're looking to do and what you're looking to accomplish. So you've already done so much, and I'll give you a big thumbs up on taking over a program and being able to see it through and put your touch on it. So that's been really cool. Excited for that journey to continue for you. So thank you for being open to sharing it with us. It's always great to hear.
Of course.
Well, groovy. And we'll pivot a little bit, because my good friend Rod from the Milwaukee Rescue Mission, I don't see him on yet, which is not overly surprising, because the man does the Lord's work, and he is a busy dude. And I will save, hopefully, if he is able to join us at the end, I will save to try to have him share his story, because for our question for the community section, what we try to do is bring someone who maybe is non-endemic to esports, who's sort of embracing esports, and then to try to bring the expertise of our community around them to help them succeed. So if Rod can't make it today, I'll touch back and just kind of touch on kind of what they're doing. But I will then have a skip to, because I see him on here and I see his friendly face, we will skip to our story time. So I would be remiss not to share my screen, because he sent me a great picture. He's a great guy. Michael Pierce is a person who, if you haven't met him yet, has been starting to just kind of put his fingerprint and impact on our gaming community through an effort called Okazeme Coffee. In addition to just being a great person, he is in the early stages, maybe somewhat middle stages, of creating a brand that we think can have some pretty massive impact on our community. And I thought it would be fun to just have him on and be able to meet him, hear a little bit about his journey, and then we'll be able to chop it up about Okazeme. But Michael, welcome, my friend. It's great to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Thank you for having me along. This is a really cool thing. I'm glad I finally actually got to come to one of these. And yeah, so thank you for having me. So yeah, Okazeme Coffee is kind of a play on words for the fighting game community. It's improve your wake up options with Okazeme Coffee Company. And that kind of just was a joke that I had with my friends for a little bit. And then my buddy said, why don't you do so? That's a solid, it's a solid tagline. Why don't you build something with that? So, I started to look into it, and the more and more I've looked into it and started to build the foundations for the brand, the more and more opportunity I see. Just because in general, you see stuff like Dark Fusion that are very specific businesses tailored to gamers, and it's about peripherals, and it's about getting the best equipment to perform the best. There's not a lot of brands that are focused around things like coffee, or you have clothes and stuff like that, but not a lot of just kind of staple goods that are just around in your kitchen. And I know that for me, I'm a big coffee nerd, so I might not be the best example, but there's a lot of energy drinks and stuff like that, and I think there's a lot of room for coffee itself, just because there's a demographic of people that are kind of my age, in the late 20s to mid 30s, that are still gamers. But we don't necessarily ascribe to the 100% like kind of that 18 to 24 gamer aesthetic. And there's room for that. There's room for that demographic to grow. And especially within the FGC, because it tends to skew a little bit older as far as gaming communities go. So yeah, I've partnered with Stone Creek Coffee in town, and they're going to be doing the blend that for us, and we're going to be starting with a light roast, and then we'll be coming out with a medium and dark roast, hopefully as the 2024 goes on. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. My big focus is trying to build up the community, because there's a lot of online stuff, and I've been involved with Magic 4 for a little while now as well, and seeing the stuff that Josh has been able to build there has just been beautiful to see. If you guys can go down to their new facility and kind of hang out with that community, because it is great, and they've cultivated something pretty special down there. And that's the kind of stuff that this is a brand, I'm not looking to build, a unicorn, something that's going to scale to the moon or anything. My purpose is to drive funds and money and jobs back into the community. And because it's a special place, it's a place that I found community where I needed it in my life. And I lived in a small town out in the middle of nowhere. And especially when the pandemic hit, like the FGC really kind of helped keep my sanity. And even before that, I was kind of a silent backer of a lot of stuff for a long time. But it's time to get involved. There's a lot of good stuff going on in the FGC, and yeah, I look forward to bringing this business to Milwaukee and to Madison. I think there was a couple of different places, gaming lounges up in Madison, that had just opened up as well. But yeah, just getting coffee into those places, getting coffee into barcades, and then getting coffee into just individual people's hands.
Well, and maybe I'll say, because
goals.
you and I have talked a little bit about like third spaces and sort of
Yep.
their value on communities. But maybe something you could speak to is, you kind of touched on it a little bit, your journey in the FGC, but like you've lived this world of gaming, and you kind of, as we have talked, you see kind of I think a vision for not only the role that coffee can play, but just sort of the role that these gaming hubs and these on-premise locations could build. Maybe speak to just some of the visioning you've had, because it goes beyond coffee. I mean, you've got kind of a broad
and it
spectrum
really
of what you're
does go
looking at.
beyond coffee. And I didn't really know how deep we wanted to get into the
It's
the
story time,
philosophy
baby.
of all
It's this is
So
it.
for me, community building, there's been a big missing piece, and you've seen it. You probably, I don't know if any of you have seen it, but it's this concept of third places. You've got the first place is your home, second place is work, and then third place is where you go and spend your meaningful time outside of the home and work, like what those spaces are. And those spaces, especially for younger people, are much different than they were for me back in the 90s when everything wasn't digital. And building those third places for people moving forward is going to be really, really important. And I think that gaming itself is a really good conduit to bring people from digital spaces. Right, Mike? Moving out of the digital spaces and trying to build like in-person communities. And like I said, like Magic 4 has done a great job of bringing something that has been really an online space for most of the pandemic and even a little bit before that, and bringing it back and bringing locals back and building those spaces for people. And especially with gaming, it's sometimes people who are isolated onto digital spaces and stuff like that. These kinds of places are important for them because they feel accepted. I see the acceptance in the FGC. I see the community building in the FGC. It's important to have those places for people who just have an open place to go. And both coffee does that and gaming does that. They're both two big passions of mine. I've been involved with both for a long time. And I look forward to helping and providing funds and providing coffee to all these spaces moving forward. So
I love it. So I'll ask the same question I kind of posed to Paisley. So in another year, it'll be December of 2024. What would be your what's your thoughts, or where would you like to see things at that point? Like just any expectations or thoughts you want to kind of get to at that lens, or
at this point, getting it up off the ground is kind of the goal. But by the end of next year, I want to see, coffee in those public community spaces, in Magic 4 space and all that stuff. And then involvement in getting, even if it's starting up more local spaces and building an infrastructure to just kind of building some plans and some infrastructure to like have something that you can almost franchise out. It's just like, hey, this is how we did it, because there's a lot of people in a lot of spaces that you just kind of, Josh is a perfect example. He didn't see it. He just went and did it. And, there were no guidelines. There was no handbook. He just went and did it. So if we can provide something that's a little bit more like a handbook, even if it's just the Cliff Notes, we can build some good stuff. Yeah. So that's the kind of stuff that I want to see from the business by the end of next year.
Cool. Well, thank you for just sharing your story. So Michael will also be at the summit, which is a really great chance to engage and interface with the brand, interface with him if you don't get a chance prior to. But yeah, that's on a
and then C3 next year. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. C3. Yeah. For Cream City Convergence, that's that continues to grow in exciting ways too. But yeah, he's an awesome person, as you can obviously tell, but also just, I think, the passion, and one of the things we value so greatly is just the authenticity of our entire community, but folks that are leading it as well. So thank you for, I would say, not only supporting, but really understanding the end goal is both a profitable company that helps, as well as
sustainability is good.
Yes, as well as helping people. So thank you for being willing to share that and just kind of help continue to bring people up to speed on what you're creating, because it's really cool.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all giving me the time. Thank you so much.
Love it. And I haven't seen Rod jump on yet, so we'll pivot just a couple ways. One is, if you're not familiar, Milwaukee Rescue Mission, is a really awesome effort here in the Milwaukee area. Rod is a director within that organization, and recently they put a small just lab, consoles, ways for members of their youth community to engage. And it's been pretty popular. People have been playing quite a bit there, and they've been kind of growing their community, but they could use help, right? Rod only knows what he knows. And so, he's asking, hey, if others have an understanding of the ways we could activate this space or what we could do with our youth to engage them and create an engaging atmosphere, we would love to know it. So if Rod were on, I think that's a lot of what he would say. And if you hear that and say, wow, that'd be really cool, I have an interest in spending my time, perhaps lending my expertise to a place like that. They've been investing and they've been using their space in a new and creative way, which is just really thrilling to hear and very exciting to imagine, because as Michael just shared and Paisley shared as well, right? We know the positive benefits it can have on a community, this type of interaction and engagement. So I think that was one thing, obviously I wanted to give Rod that exposure, but when you work at the Milwaukee Rescue Mission and you're the director of things happen. So we're not going to hold it against him that he wasn't able to make it. It will give us a couple extra minutes. And I do want to highlight, there's a gentleman, Jeremy, on who I just had a chance to chat with before this call. And I'm sure we'll give him some more exposure here in the future. But Jeremy, if you would, just give people a quick update, because you're doing something pretty cool. And I think it's worthy of recognition in the space as well.
Oh yeah, thanks. And then I can drop our website in the chat thing if that's cool too.
Yeah, drop it in.
That's all right. So then I'll do that. Oops, that was not what I meant. So anyways, my wife and I have a couple teenage sons that are into gaming and been playing a lot of games. And we notice in our community, we live out in Wales, which is the Kettle Moraine School District, just south of 94 out in Lake Country. And we notice that there's a gap for kids that are kind of in that teenage years going into their 20s, where there isn't really any place to go. They just hang out in parking lots at places and nothing really safe or fun for them to enjoy. So we figured, why don't we try to create a space for them? So we came up with a lounge idea and then kind of tweaked it a little bit and tried to make it more of a gamer lounge, or a lounge that kids can come play games or rent systems from us. So the way that we decided to put it together was, I got a wall that we're calling our gamer wall that's got 9 65-inch TVs. It's 14.5 feet by 8 feet tall, that can be individually chopped up to be able to play each TV, or else you can corner it off and have 4 TVs on one image, which is great for playing Mario Kart, or you can do one image across the whole span. We also added a space on the other side of our space that has what we call digital cabanas that are 9 by 9 feet that you're able to rent out, get a frozen pizza and get some snacks and play games in there, or watch a movie. It's semi-private. It can be curtained off, so you can hang out there. And some free play areas like a shuffleboard. We also got some arcade games from my buddy Dan Lucen, who runs Midwest Gaming Classic. So we got a Waka game and a Jubeat game that are pretty rare and fun to play. I've spent enough on Waka already that I'm in the red. But anyways, it's a great space, and we're just looking for something for the community to have. I'm not a super high-tech gamer. I don't know a ton about the community, and I'm just looking to have a place for people to come and hang out. It's not that we're looking to really try to run a whole lot out of it. It's just available for people that want to host tournaments. We might try to do some single night tournaments and leagues just with kind of the average Joe player that's out here, kind of like me, and kind of go from there.
Love it. Like I said, well, I'm sure we'll have more conversation, but I just, came upon what you guys have created, and Michael said it well about Josh from Magic 4, right? Like sometimes people see a need and they just go take what they can to make it happen. You guys have certainly done that. So thank you for just being, someone who sees a need in their community and says, we'd like to try to figure out a way to make it help. So I dropped your website in there, go check it out. Obviously we're going to try to get them involved and acclimated in the community as much as possible, but just kind of a unique opportunity seeing you on here and Rod not being here a couple extra minutes. So appreciate you sharing
Awesome.
that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, that's pretty much our programming for today, folks. Just, appreciate everyone being here. You saw some of the stuff. It's been a busy Q4. We expect a very robust 2024. There is an exceptional amount of activity going on at pretty much all levels of the esports ecosystem, which is really encouraging. The macro industry has certainly had its share of struggles this year. If you follow at all the national esports news, there's a lot going on. And so I don't say it incredulously that the fact that our local ecosystems continue to see growth and continue to see investment and continue to see connectivity is really profound. So a ton of thanks really to a lot of the folks that are on here and those that can't make it for your efforts. And it's, I think, setting us up for a really strong upcoming year and into the future. So appreciate everyone's efforts. Thank you for being a part of these. We'll get some more time on. And, if you haven't, consider thinking about registering for the summit. We're in that event time frame where our registrations, 80% come in like the last 3 weeks. We know that. But when you're the event organizer and you're 3 months out and your registrations are not where you want them to be, you just, have heart palpitations. So if anyone wants to register ahead of time or wants to just do me a solid and get those numbers, that'll just help me in my psyche, but I get it. So thank you all. Appreciate you being here. Great to see your faces, and we'll keep marching on. Thanks for the time.
Thank you.